Sorry, folks. I got some slight technical difficulties here. It's not quite working right, but I think it's recording. Anyway, here we go. If you have a truck where the doors randomly lock themselves and someone else is using that truck, you need to tell them. When it's plus 40 out and everything cold they have to drink and their wallet and their phone are inside that truck and it locks on its own, you're a dick. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Well, everybody, welcome to the Mashup. We are joined in our final week. I don't know why I'm full screen here, but we're joined in our final week of Sean's hiatus with Marty Up North, the esteemed Marty. Welcome back to the show.
So does that make me a guest host? Yes,
you are the guest host. Yeah,
I'm a guest host. Cool. I always wanted to be a guest host. Hey, quick trivia.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Carson, what was his permanent guest host's name?
I don't know.
Ed McMahon. You don't remember Ed McMahon? But anyways, the trivia part is that...
Marty,
wait, yeah.
I'm significantly younger than you are.
All right, sure, fair enough. But Ed McMahon, so Johnny Carson was a late night host, and then he had Ed McMahon, who was a permanent guest host, which is a triple oxymoron.
Yeah,
permanent
actually.
Guest host.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah. So, how's things going with you?
Awesome. A little shook up, though. Let's talk about it for a second. I mean, you can see it up on the screen, Marty Up North, right? So Marty Up North, I'm a guy from Northern Alberta, and I spent 20 years living in Fox Creek and Edson and Grand Prairie and places like that. And Jasper's my backyard, man. Jasper was my backyard. I spent a lot of time in my backyard. And watching what's happening in Jasper and getting the phone calls from my friends who've been evacuated and all of that, like the last day or two have been a bit emotional because of that. But, and in fact, I said on a tweet last night, it's been a weird emotional week. So I'm super pumped to be here with you this morning and lighten it up. And, let's end this week on a light, high note.
Well, speaking of light, high notes, the Coots 2 have been in jail for 894 days. Yeah, they're about to hit 900, man.
That's unreal, man.
But happy Airborne Friday. So that's all right. And there is no shortage of interesting things to talk about this week, Marty, including we'll get to a little bit more about Jasper later.
Sure.
But for right now, why don't we get cracking?
Les hôpitaux sont merde. I can read that. That's in French. You want me to translate for you what that says? Hospitals are shit.
Oh, I got it right too. I didn't even look it up. I was like, I think that's the point.
Actually, you almost got it. You know what? You got it the way I would have written it, as a sort of French as become a second language. I think it's les hôpitaux. It's one of those exceptions where the plural of hospitals doesn't end with an S, but I knew what you were trying to say.
All right. So what's happening in fucking Quebec in general, but specifically in Montreal right now, is that there's this big crackdown with the French language laws. And they say that in government places, French has to be spoken all the time, unless there's specific emergencies or whatever else. Right. And so if you go into a place and they don't speak French, you're supposed to report them to the language police. And they're now cracking down on hospitals, including the most interesting part is that the operation table, the operation rooms, you have to speak French while you're operating on somebody.
Okay.
This is it. This is the law. This is...
Yeah. No, it's the law. Where are we going with this?
Well, it's just absolutely insane. I mean, who cares if I'm unconscious? If I'm unconscious and someone's, I don't know, taking out a kidney or, doing something spleen.
Yeah, can you imagine? You got a world-class surgeon operating on you, but he happens to be Chinese and he immigrated to Canada. And during the panic of the operation, he starts speaking Chinese to his nurse and you're like, whoa, slow down. And now he's pulling out his translator and he's typing in something so you can, this has gone too far. Yeah.
I mean, it's artificially limiting the quality of your candidates too by that metric. Now that you mention it, because if somebody only speaks, I don't know, Bulgarian, but they're a really great surgeon, well, we'd love to hire you on at the Montreal blah 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 hospital, but you don't speak French. Like I cut people open. That's all I need to do. There's no language involved with cutting people open. This isn't necessary. And they're like, yeah, but it's the law.
It's the law.
This is what we deal with. And then Sherry Lynn, big win for the Natives today. Ontario versus Restoul et al. Headline politics CPAC. I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
I know what CPAC is. That's about it. And Ontario is like a province out east or something, but that's about it.
Okay, so I'm going to be Sean this week, and you're going to be Twos. I don't know why it just sometimes decides to be on loop and sometimes it doesn't. Apologies, folks.
Conflict of interest of the week. Oh my God. Let me guess. Is it Danielle Smith and her hockey tickets? Or...
No, but we're going to get to that. That's a great thought. Yes. So this comes from Dan Mazier, whatever, an MP in Manitoba. And so I don't know if you remember hearing about this, but longtime listeners of the show will remember when we talked about how the president of the Green Slush Fund resigned when the questions of conflict of interest came up. And then immediately, like the week after, it was the CEO or something like that. And I was like, you guys have a president and a CEO for a slush fund. And so they both, within 2 weeks of each other, resigned. And so it turns out that they spent nearly $76 million on projects connected to Liberals' friends appointed to run the fraud. On top of this, $12 million was given to projects that were both ineligible and had a conflict of interest. In one instance, Trudeau's handpicked Green Slush Fund chair siphoned off $217,000 to her own company. We talked about that specifically on the mashup. So here's the thing, though, is that right at the top, chair has been found guilty by Canada's ethics commissioner. So,
the ethics commissioner himself has been found guilty of things. I mean, that's not we're approaching, what do you call it? Like we're going in full circles now, right? I mean, those preventing conflict of interest are in conflict of interest is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But well, I mean, they've had just this rotating chair. I can't even think of who the current conflict of interest.
Actually, he's not even in place.
We
technically don't have a conflict of interest guy right now. I don't think we do. I think we have an acting conflict of interest person. But
yeah, it's been this revolving door, this hot potato. But now this is, I mean, we talked about this months ago, and now it's actually that they've been found guilty. I think the consequences they're going to be facing is a $200 fine.
200,
which is generally what happens when you're found guilty of the Conflict of Interest Act in Canada. And so, for example, that $217,000 bit of money they got for their company, they're going to have to repay 200 of it, apparently.
Yeah, and then they're going to outsource the next conflict of interest director to GC Industries. Mark my words. And you know who GC Industries
Strategies
or GC Strategies. Well, actually, they're all valid because I think GC Strategies, Industries, whatever. I think one of our colleagues found that they had about 17 variations on that name on the list of bidders in the government of Canada. So
isn't it funny how that works?
Well, it's the reason I gave all my dogs human names, because then I can, easily put my dogs as employees.
Dependents.
Yeah. Dependents. Oh, I hadn't gone that far, but I have them as employees.
Yeah, you could get them. I'm sure with a little bit of effort, you could get them driver's licenses and everything. Probably social insurance numbers. You could probably get like 3 or 4 social insurance numbers each.
Yeah.
Read it. You got to read it, Martin.
La 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 chameleon. I gotta do the Boy George song. I'm a chameleon. Did I get it? Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, you got her. You got her. So this is Kamala Harris has now been named. So Joe Biden, very unexpectedly, if you never are on Twitter, I guess, Joe Biden decided that he was not going to be running again. And now Kamala Harris has gotten the nod. And it's been interesting seeing some of
what's
the
her
fallout.
expression? We're unburdened by what has been or what will be or something like that. She's an expert at word salads. I mean, Trudeau's good at word salads, but Kamala puts him like she's in a league of her own.
So fewer ums. I'll give her the credit for that, but also less substance, if that's even possible.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'd say they're just a lot more circular.
Yeah, well, that's what she likes to say, right?
Ukraine is a place, and it's a small place, and Russia's a big place, and the big place wants more of the small place, and that's what's happening in. Yeah,
who will unite these United States? And you live in the context of what has been. Or no, actually, my favorite one of hers? I think was like, today is actually yesterday tomorrow.
Yeah, it's basically Jack Handy type stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jack Handy. Awesome. Yeah, he was awesome.
So anyway, yeah, exactly. You know it. So it's going to be interesting because, of course, now the legacy media has been all like, "Ooh, rah rah rah, Kamala," and they're all super excited about her, despite a week ago saying that Joe Biden was totally fine, and now they're like in the same faces without even addressing the fact that they were so dishonest about Joe Biden for literal years. They're now saying that Kamala is just the greatest thing ever. I really hope Tulsi Gabbard ends up somewhere in a position to debate her again. I don't know if
it's like when Kamala, that stage thing where Kamala's receiving a call from Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for endorsing me." And then she should finish, even though you didn't endorse me last time. Like all of a sudden, like, I mean, she finished, I think, in her last campaign. She must have, in the last time, she did run for the presidential nomination. She finished.
Yeah, she got less than 1% of the vote.
Yeah.
In the primary, it was a disaster. Harris is a straight up nut bar. Yep. Unburdened by the past is word salad for communism going forward. And Earl, hey, Earl, she can talk for 10 minutes and not say anything. I would say that's an understatement, but I'm pretty sure there's courses or classes that these people take on how to answer a question without actually saying anything.
It's too bad that she's going to lose and Trudeau's going to lose, because otherwise it would have been hilarious to have Trudeau and her in a room trying to word salad each other. Can you imagine?
Oh, could you? Yeah, actually, you know what? I don't want to see a Trump-Harris debate. I want to see a Harris-Trudeau debate.
Woo.
Oh, wouldn't that be beautiful?
Yeah.
Secret.
Am I supposed to sing this one too? Because I think that was a song.
I mean, you could.
Secret. No. Secret.
So what happened is here we go. So Polyev says that there's secret documents show that the NDP Liberal government has a hidden plan for national decriminalization, and if they're reelected, expect crack, cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl in a schoolyard near you. And then Yara Sachs, who totally sucks, says, stop misleading Canada. It's not true. These secret docs are posted online. Technically, that's true. They were posted online by Blacklocks, who found them through Freedom of Information. But anyway, and then it's interesting because on the one hand, yeah, that's technically right what Polyev said. But on the other hand, I don't know what it is that works about this, because it rubs me the wrong way. But politicians love to talk about how their competitors have secret plans to do this and secret plans to do everything else. And it just, I don't know, it kind of just gives me the icks.
One of the things that these guys need to learn is that the internet is forever. So when you say something, and we'll find it if you said it in the past. And what's the other expression? If they tell you the truth, believe them. So, but generally speaking, I mean, I just don't even like this whole topic. This, like, no, I'm not an alcoholic, but if I was an alcoholic, don't give me free booze. And why are we giving free drugs, especially hard drugs, to, like, I don't know what they're trying to gain by this. I have no idea. Well, I know what they're trying to gain by this. It's a way to keep us down. It's just a way to keep us down.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely.
Yep.
I'm going to do a quick amalgamation here. One of the other things we're going to talk about was how Bonnie Henry, who's basically the head, she's the Fauci of BC, said recently that she's recommending that stores have carry meth, heroin, and cocaine just for general sale. You won't even need a doctor's note or anything like that to get it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say carry it like next to the defibrillator, like a little box in case of emergency.
No. Just on the shelf next to the Imodium and the Tylenol and whatever allergy medication.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, that's what she recommended. And the NDP were like, this is a little bit too crazy, and they're distancing themselves from it. Although, I mean, they do have that election coming up fairly quick too.
Wow.
So yeah, and at the same time, as much as the UCP irritates me, they are now on like a 4-year low for overdose deaths in Alberta because they've gone away from things like what
safe injection sites and all that stuff. Like, enough of that. Yeah. Interesting. Yep.
Oh, keep going. No,
I thought secret could have meant some other things too. I mean, this week, the director of the Secret Service in the U.S. finally stepped down. So,
yes, we're going to get to that too.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
Kill Bill Maker.
Yes.
Bill Maker.
So somebody, well, two different people in Alberta, believe it or not, have threatened to kill Trudeau, Freeland, and Singh. And so they tweeted, I think, or posted on social media anyway, that they were going to murder the prime minister, the finance minister, and the.
That's because Trudeau's too chicken shit to do like Biden. What, like, seriously, Trudeau, like, be a man, go on the podium, hire a guy to stand like 200 yards away with an AR-15 and shoot you at that, and just miss you barely. Like, don't like, he's too chicken shit to do the right thing. Like Trump did it, so he's doing it this way. No, come on, no way. Fabricated.
Well, I imagine it was a real. I imagine they were real posts, but it's silly. Look, and here's the thing: is that Trudeau getting killed is the last thing that I want to have happen. I want to have him metaphorically killed in an election. I want his ideologies to be so thoroughly squashed that it's just this embarrassing footnote in the annals of history. This thing that we acknowledge but don't want to talk about.
We're all there with you.
And anybody wants to kill him, you're just going to make him a martyr. Look at what happened to Trump when they shot him but didn't kill him. It would be a million times worse if they did.
Yeah, Trudeau's done enough damage to most of us at this point that a little more damage won't make any difference. So I'm with you. I want to see him go down in an electoral defeat, and I want to hear his concession speech. But just back to this one, when this story broke, and I was driving with my wife, and they talked about two Albertans who posted on social media, and my wife like just turned at me and she's just looking at me. I'm like, no. I don't like the guy, but I don't wish him ill will. I truly don't. I don't, absolutely.
I wish him ill will, but I don't want anybody to kill him. I want everything bad you can imagine to happen to that guy, with the exception of death.
Yeah. Plants are racists.
Yes, that is correct. Racist plant names are being changed. The International Botanical Congress, which takes place in Madrid, because these things always take place in fucking Madrid, recently voted to rename plants whose scientific designations contain racial slurs.
No way.
Except they really don't. So I don't know how much you know about science or anything like that, Marty.
Yeah. The hierarchy and I know something. I think I have a degree on the wall.
Science in general as a concept.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so the whole idea behind the Latin names for everything is that it's a dead language, so the meaning won't change over time. So if you say that something is green 1,000 years from now, that isn't going to mean elongated, right? Or some other random change. Like if you just use the word green and then English continues to evolve, or French or whatever. I mean, we've got Quebecois and Parisian French, which are almost two different languages in some aspects, right? Just as an example. And so they went with Latin because nobody speaks it anymore. And it's whatever it means right now is what it's always going to mean forever. And so this is the first time that taxonomists have considered changing the rules to deal with offensive plant names. One proposal in particular hopes to rename over 200 species whose scientific names contain or are based on the word kafra. Kafra, derived from the Arabic word kafir or kafri, is a slur historically used against Black people living in South Africa during apartheid and can be translated to infidel. Now, if you go to some translated post of some other taxonomist thing, it says Erythrea, from the Greek erythros, meaning red, and Kafra, which is Latin, the Latin name of the African region of the Kafirs. So basically what happened, it'd be like if Canada was a country, like a legit country, imagine in your head, and then later on, Canada became a racial slur. Like, oh, look at that Canadian. Well, if something's from Canada and it predates it, and so they're just this usage of the word has evolved, but the actual Latin name has not, and so they're trying to play catch up on it. It's silly.
Yeah, we got to stop doing this because, you know, especially in most languages are metaphorical or whatever. Like they're, you know, like we say the back of the room. In fact, the back of the room is because we're referring to our back. Back is the biological name of this part of my anatomy in the back of the room, you know. So, yeah. Hey, let them do it. I mean, that's fine. You know, that's pretty minor. I get more upset when they're trying to change names of animals. Like I thought as an example you were going to give something like Venus flytrap. I'm like, oh, are they offended because we're saying Venus is the goddess and we can't call a plant a goddess?
Well, here's a great
Pussy Willow comment. Whoever put that one, that's good.
Eileen says, I guess Pussy Willow is abolished now.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I just think it's all silly and you're never going to be able to keep up with it.
No,
but that's just me. Jasper, where do you want to go with this, Marty?
Go where you want it to go, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a post. Yeah. Well, here's a post from a friend of the show that I had lined up before I figured out what the lineup was going to be of the show. So, ironically enough, we were going to be talking about this particular tweet from Marty Up North even before Marty was going to be on this week. So Jasper National Park has been, you should be reading this.
I won't read it. I'll summarize it. I mean, Jasper, it means a lot to a lot of Albertans and to a lot of people around the world. I mean, it's a gorgeous place in the Canadian Rockies, and it's been there, you know, since the beginning since before Alberta became a province. Well, time immemorial. It's our playground, man. Albertans go there and it's our playground. And and right now it's in flames. In fact, it's more than in flames. It's half destroyed. And it's tragic. But after the tragedy, I got upset because it's a preventable tragedy. And you know, everybody who's ever driven anywhere in the Canadian Rockies lately in the last decades, you see these dead trees that have been infested with pine beetles. And people say, oh, that's climate change. No, it's not. It's because the trees got old, they got infested with pine beetles, and then they died. That's how trees die, folks. And because there's no more pine beetles right now because they ate all the old trees. And they didn't cut the trees. So the tragedy in Jasper to me was preventable. But you know, and And that, yeah, thanks, Earl. And I'm sure it means a lot to a lot of people. So that's my tweet on that. And it's a tweet that resonated. And now what we're seeing is a lot of finger pointing between different levels of government as to who's responsible for that. So it's tragic. It's just a tragic. And to the people affected by it right now, our thoughts are, we always say it, our thoughts are there. I'm trying to do more than thoughts. I want more than thoughts. We gotta hold some people accountable for this tragedy. Well,
yeah.
Sorry to bring it down, folks. Let's bring it back.
This is specifically what we were going to be talking about here. My view on it is, we saw this happen with Slave Lake. We saw this happen with Fort Mac. How many more times are we going to see this happen before somebody somewhere says we need to do something different? And guys like you and, who spend a lot of time. I'm from Saskatchewan. I don't know the first fucking thing about mountains or trees, but there's a lot of guys who live in this area basically, and they have been talking about all of this deadfall for decades.
Yep.
And nothing's been done about it. And how many more communities are we going to let burn down before we say, well, you know what, maybe we should let some of the adults take a look at this and see what they want to do? Or, you know what, worst case scenario, why don't you just say, all right, well, you crazy folks over there that want to manage the forest, why don't you guys try it with that community over there and we'll see how it goes?
Oh, I say that I apply that concept to a lot of things, right? I mean, people want to come to here and say, hey, you guys should do solar panels. It'll be good for your economy. And usually the guys who are trying to convince us of that are coming from a deadbeat economy out east. So I'm like, well, tell you what, if it's such a great idea, do it in your province and then show me how it's done and we'll do it here. So, we'll see what happens out of it. I do not look forward to driving home through Jasper in the next couple. In fact, I was supposed to go do a hike in Jasper on August 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and that's not going to happen. So, yeah, sorry, folks. It's tragic.
All right.
Scary. Oh God, that could be anything. Could be a church burning. Could be a
scary weather picture of the week.
What color are we into now? Are they black? Are they putting maps that are all black?
Well, they went with the satellite picture of Jasper.
Oh.
And then what they did actually as the follow-up was point out everything's scary on it.
Yeah, because luckily the first picture doesn't mean anything to most people anyways, right? They're looking at it. It could be anything.
Yeah,
in fact, it could be anything.
Be a zoomed-in picture of somebody's nutsack.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, this is it. They went away from, the scary colors and whatnot to just going with this. I mean, it's an interesting choice of a satellite image because it's at such an angle. I don't know. I found the perspective to be a little bit weird, where it's not overhead at all. And then,
in fact, when I look at it, I almost say it's a fail on their part. I don't see anything scary in that picture except maybe the severe thunderstorm with large hail, but everything else looks fairly normal.
Yeah, but I guess this is what they're doing this week. I don't know if it's a win or not. I can't really decide. But again, they've completely abandoned the old, the high front and the low front and the sun and the cloud over top.
And the pretty girl. Remember the good old days where you had the pretty girl who
you got to go to Mexico for that now.
Mexico, yeah.
Those Mexican weather ladies are
something else
to behold.
Absolutely.
Something to behold.
Suck my GDP. Well, I know our GDP is pre-2014 levels, so we've lost about 20% of our buying power as Canadians ever since Trudeau came into power. Is it worse than that, or what's the headline?
Well, it's this interesting bit of discourse back and forth. So what we have is Poilievre again saying that Canada's collapsing economy is shrinking faster than any G7 country after 9 years of the NDP Liberals. Trudeau's inflationary spending and interest rates skyrocketing as a result. And then this guy, who is a prof, not of economics, but of politics, and very far left, believe it or not, a poli-sci professor who's far left, and he says Poilievre's claim that Canada's economy is shrinking faster than any other G7 country is multiple lies rolled into one sentence. One, Canada's economy is not shrinking, it's growing. Two, Canada's GDP growth has been near the top of the G7. And so it goes from, so the chart here goes from 2019 to 2024, but it misses the Q4 data of 2023. The interesting thing is that our economy or our population has grown by like 10% in that time. And so the very top of the graph where the US is 1.1 or 110%. And so we're at about 105% despite having grown our population by over 10%. And so if you want to look at it per capita, our GDP is actually on the bottom of that graph.
Yeah.
Not at all where it is. And then if you look at this, this is the forecast.
That's the one. Yeah.
This is the forecast, OECD real GDP per capita forecast per annum, which means the OECD's projection as to which countries are going to have the largest increases and the smallest increases. And at the absolute bottom of the list, the projections for 2020 to 2030 is 0.7%.
Actually, liberals usually like it when we're second to last. Not last. They really like when we're second to last, similar to that, because then they get to cheer their favorite cheer. Hey, we're not last.
We're not the worst.
Yeah.
We're not the worst. So since 2014 to 2022, Canada is almost dead last in growing GDP. They're 28th. I'm guessing this is OECD countries because I think there's 30 of them.
You and I have studied this. You've studied this. I mean, I find it's interesting. The Liberals are basically desperate to try and find something to show that they've made progress in the last 10 years. They can't. They got to pull out these.
There's two issues I have with GDP. One of them is that it doesn't account for population increase. It gets normalized for inflation, but it does not get normalized for population. And so if it'd be like if you're 20 years old or 25 years old and you got a place by yourself and you say, okay, I make whatever, say 50 grand a year. And then you get 4 roommates to move in and they all make 50 grand a year. And you say, great, now this household makes 250 grand a year. And that's basically what this is saying, what the GDP stuff says. And it's frustrating because, one, it doesn't normalize for population. And two, I think there'd be a really good argument for real GDP, as they call it, which is normalized for inflation, to actually normalize for public sector. What do you think about that?
No, well, I mean, generally, my observation, I know what GDP means. You know what GDP means,
Mm-hmm.
but I also remember that it's new in our vocabulary. Under Harper and prior to Trudeau, for the last 40 years, I never heard Canada anywhere talk about GDP. We really didn't talk about it. We had other measures that were much more important. This one became important under Trudeau because one of the things they love to do is they love to, they're borrowing money, and they keep saying the amount of money we're borrowing compared to our GDP. So basically, as a household, a credit card versus what we're worth is not that bad. And so they use GDP to make a big inflated number to keep telling ourselves, hey, we're not in trouble borrowing, hey, we've only borrowed $2 trillion. We're not in trouble. We've trouble.
Doubled the national debt in a decade.
Yeah.
One other last note on this. Everybody's kind of roughly, there's a few outliers at the front, but nobody's really clearly far and away ahead of everybody else except for Ireland, who is...
I was going to say, I couldn't see the detail. Is that
double.
Ireland? Yeah, that's... Okay.
So Ireland is double second place.
That's Guinness,
Ireland,
man. Like that. It's Guinness. That's just Guinness.
No, it's not Guinness.
It's not Guinness, no?
It's that they went away from they went away from corporate taxes. So corporations don't pay income tax in Ireland, and so
Yep.
lots of companies have moved their headquarters there. And
Whoa, whoa,
isn't it
whoa.
interesting?
Corporations don't pay income tax in Ireland? Like it's
Yes.
become a tax haven similar to like the Bahamas?
Exactly. And
Wow.
because of that, they are more than double second place in GDP growth in the past decade. All right. Now, I'm not a huge expert on economics, but it seems to me that if you've got one country that is the only country doing one thing and they're the only country who is double everybody else, the two might be related and it could be worth looking into.
Well, and I'll say one more thing on this topic. You know,
Yep.
a tax is generally promoted as a let's take the carbon tax. They're promoting the carbon tax as a way to de-incentivize us and not do something. You're right. Taxes have the opposite incentive. They make us not want to work. So if you want us to work and you want to generate more GDP, lower the taxes. Yeah, it's a guy named Laffer.
No brainer.
Yeah, a guy named
exactly.
Laffer came.
You're exactly the Laffer curve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, cool. Clyde and I have talked about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that could be a lot of things. Vandalism, Pride Month,
Yes.
Pride, vandalism. You could write it in any order. Actually, if you're a Pride supporter, pronouns and words don't mean anything. So you could write that in any order if you want, and it hopefully still means the same thing.
Yes. And here we have tire marks left on Pembroke, Ontario Rainbow Crosswalk following cases of anti-LGBTQS plus vandalism. Well, you know what? They forgot one of the plus signs. Is that vandalism?
Uh-oh.
And if you don't want people to drive over the pride flag,
don't put it on the sidewalk or on the street.
Don't put it on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Ever seen the video? There's a video that circulated on the internet where there's a place where they painted the stairs with the pride colors, and then there's like a rail, and the guy doesn't want to walk on the stairs.
Oh,
so
yes.
He pulls himself up the rail.
He pulls himself up the railing.
Yeah,
well, that's exactly it. A few weeks ago in Foothills for a couple hours, and so going to town, and then they've got this gay pride crosswalk going into the main entrance. And I just walked around it. Right? Which is interesting. I couldn't decide if I was doing well or poorly by doing that, because on the one hand, I don't want to even. It's not that I don't like gay people. It's that I hate this constant overbearing bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
stop shoving it down our throat.
Well, poor choice of words, but yes. And so anyway, I want to walk around it, but also the more I walk back and forth over it, the faster it'll wear away.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a weird thought, but I don't have a lot of superstitions, but one superstition I have is I will not walk under a ladder. Do it at work all the time, right, guys? Mm-hmm. There's ladders, and hey, Marty, grab that wrench there. I'll walk all the way around. And
yep.
So am I anti-ladder because I'm walking around the ladder? I guess. And to be honest,
are you worried that if you walk across a gay crosswalk, it'll be infectious?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gayness technically is an STD. Like if you do any of the gay stuff with a gay guy, you're now gay. You've essentially caught it. So yeah. Anyway.
Oh well. Moving on.
Moving forward.
Oh, that was impressive. Yes, that was impressive. Very impressive.
Old faithfuls abound.
Yeah.
So CTV. Sunday was the hottest day ever recorded.
Oh, you caught me off guard. That's not the story I expected.
Say. Oh, well, that's all right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This was funny because they go back and they say it's the hottest day ever recorded, breaking temperature data back to 1940, according to preliminary data from Europe's Copernicus Climate Change Services. And then it goes through, it talks about uncharted territory, climate warming, new records being broken in future months and years. And then they went on to, oh shoot, I'm missing it. The second article they had on here was that it was the day after they released an article saying that it was the second hottest day ever recorded. And then they said that it's been crazy because since 2016, they said that the Copernicus weather observation has been consistently breaking their own records. Now, the interesting thing about the Copernicus Climate Change Service is that it was formed in 2014. So I would say that it stands to fucking reason that they've been breaking their own records, given that the thing's only a decade old.
Absolutely.
Like, Marty, I see you're growing your beard back, which is great. It's goddamn debonair. And you looked like, I don't know, you looked like a hypoallergenic cat when you shaved it off. So I'm glad it's back. But it just seems so different. It just seems so different. But here's the thing is that in the last month, Marty, this is the longest your beard has ever been.
And every day is a record for my
beard. Tomorrow is going to be the longest day it has ever been.
If
when you look at a very narrow window,
yes, you started measuring the growth of my beard on February 1st. I'm setting records every day. If you measure and you compare me to what I was like at the height of COVID, I'm not even close to. Remember COVID? My God, during COVID, I had like freaking hair everywhere. Like, you know, I couldn't go to the hairstylist, right? And my wife tried cutting it a few times. I'm like, forget it. I'm just going all Tom Hanks in Castaway. Yeah. No, and this is no joke, right? They're definitely erasing it. 1940 is not a coincidence because the hottest decade here, you talk to any old person,
was the Dirty 30s.
The Dirty 30s, the Dust Bowl, man. And not just in Montana and Arizona, Saskatchewan and places like that. You guys had a very hot Dirty 30s. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. Nobody talks about the pause anymore. Do you remember the pause? So there was no no
warming or the cooling, because there's been one
the warming pause. There was no appreciable warming for a 17-year period. And nobody could figure out why. And so they just decided to start calling it the pause. And the reason why it wasn't warming was because it was the pause.
Yeah.
And that was recent. Like, this was somewhere roughly, I want to say like 2005 to 2020 or something like that. Ballpark. And so anyway, everybody seems to have forgotten that. And so whenever you see these articles, it's the numbers have been continually going up. The numbers have continually going up, but they just kind of forget their own data when it doesn't support their narrative.
Yeah. Keep talking. I'm reaching around. I'm going to grab something I want to show you and the viewers. Give me 1 second.
Is it to do with this or am I I'm okay. All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, Marty's back.
Marty's back. I don't know how many people can see this, but let me show you this beauty. Okay. And then this other one. I got dozens like this.
Bring it back just a little bit. So it's yeah. It was just getting a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
When I was trying to focus up close.
And so these are called horn corals. And I just collected these last week on a hike. And so Alberta and Saskatchewan used to be under a big ocean. And, you know, go to Drumheller and places like that. Anyways, these are horn corals. They're prehistoric corals that used to grow on the bottom of the ocean here in Alberta. I found these suckers at 1,800 meters above sea level last week in a place called the Wary Gap. 1,800 meters. I'm almost 6,000 feet. I found them on a mountain peak. And so, yeah, I love going to places like that and showing people who tell me like, oh, since recorded time, this is an example of recorded time.
Yes.
And yeah, you know, please, folks, like, come on, man, a new record since 1940. That's nothing. That's nothing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't think so. When I read Old Faithful's Abound, I was thinking Old Faithful's the name of a geyser in Yellowstone Park, right? Old Faithful. And you saw
what happened.
There's a bunch. Oh, you didn't see?
Nope.
So there's a bunch of geysers in Yellowstone. They all have names and they're all very predictable. One of them blew up this week. It's like it got plugged with rocks and then the pressure built up, and then boom, it like created a huge crater. And I thought that's the video, because that somebody caught it on video. It's like, man, like, you know, you normally your next to old guys or old faithful is just going burp blurp blurp. No, this one went boom. So I thought that's the story. Bring it up next week, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna make our first exception this week, but we only cover this week's news. Generally speaking, on the mashup. No, this was just a fact.
But that happened this week.
It's all the same. Well, yeah, but I didn't know about it. So by the time we talk about it next week, it'll be last week's thing, right?
Got it.
But it was just the fact that it just checked all the boxes of they're saying the exact same things, the same lack of critical thinking, the same application or failure to apply any sort of logic to any of this.
Well, my favorite, before we leave this, that my favorite is when 14 cities around the world all claim that we're warming up twice as fast as the average.
Oh,
that's
well, that's the other thing.
Mathematically,
actually in that article, it said that Canada's Arctic is warming up at 4 times the global rate. And I've seen that for there's people who've done supercuts of it and stuff like that. Yeah. I have yet to see any article mention a place that's warming at a rate lower than the average. Which begs
theoretically, there has to be one somewhere, right?
Theoretically, it's going to be, well, I mean, you would say that half of them have to be below the median, right? But I've yet to hear of a single one that's just warming less than expected.
Probably someplace in Russia, Siberia, somewhere.
Yeah. Here we go. All right, next article.
Whoa.
Importing Canadian-style politics. So this is a tweet from Elizabeth Warren, who, those of you may remember, she's the one who claimed First Nations ancestry and used it to leapfrog her political career, and then said that she did a DNA test when Donald Trump was making fun of her about it. She said she did a DNA test, and she came out 1,024th First Nations, which apparently... that's less than the statistical noise. So if you took some random person from Africa whose family had never left Africa or Russia or China, they would have more First Nations blood in them, according to an ancestry test than that was. But here's her saying, and tell me if this sounds familiar at all, Marty. Americans are angry about high grocery costs, and they are right to be angry. Grocery prices are high because giant food corporations spent years price gouging, raising prices far beyond inflation.
Oh my gosh.
POTUS and BP are fighting this corporate greed, and we must have their back.
So either she's stealing Jagmeet's thunder or Jagmeet's stealing her thunder. I'd say she's
Jagmeet's been talking about this for months.
Yep.
This is the same blatant knowledge, lack of knowledge of economics, and I don't know if they're that stupid or they feel like their voters are that stupid. Either way, it doesn't look good for people who vote for them. But it's absolutely frustrating.
Jagmeet's like becoming an unknown rapidly. God, he went over the top last week. I mean, he's asking for price control. He's genuinely asking for price control. You know,
he's asking for centrally planned economy as far as groceries go. He literally tried to cap the price on, what was it, bread and
well, in his example, he was talking about olive oil, and then it was hilarious. As I have a lot of followers that are from behind the Iron Curtain, you know, that came here, the Russians and whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't have olive oil when I lived in Russia. We had whatever," and they gave these weird descriptions.
Probably just tallow, or not tallow, but you know, just you'd have your cooking grease and whatever else, right?
Yeah, whatever that's called. Yeah, gross.
But yeah, this is like identical to all kinds of tweets that Jagmeet Singh has done. And the interesting thing is that it shows nothing but stupidity and ignorance when I look at it. And yet the US seems to think that it's something worth trying to emulate. It just baffles me.
It's stupid, but it resonates with a lot of people. It resonates with stupid people. So, which is a shame, which leads me to, you know, logic, you know, all birds are red. If you're red, you're whatever. So if you
fire hydrants are red, therefore fire hydrants are birds.
Yeah. So unfortunately, by logic, a lot of Canadians and a lot of Americans are stupid. It's sad, but yeah.
If anybody's watching this or listening to it, and anything in that Elizabeth Warren tweet seems like it makes sense, I would
Stop.
strongly implore you to read Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell.
Yeah. Before we get off that topic,
Yeah.
just quickly,
Yeah.
I didn't do the math, but I if I did
Neither
do
did they.
I did do the ancestry, whatever,
Mhm.
23andMe, whatever, and you know that I can't remember the exact number, but almost all of us have a little bit of Genghis Khan's DNA in our
Yeah.
body. That
'cause
bugger
that guy
reproduced, man. That bugger reproduced.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much everybody's at least a little bit Mongolian.
Yeah,
unless you're in,
I
like,
get I get my sample and I'm going like, where's Mongolian blood come from? Don't ask.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know where it's from.
Yeah. Oh, this is a sad story. I don't like this
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Well, when life hands you lemonade, Saskatoon police say 2 teens have been arrested after robbing a 7-year-old girl's lemonade stand, took juice, money, and candy. 14-year-old found with knife, charged with carrying concealed weapon and breaching court order. 16-year-old arrested on outstanding warrants.
So much wrong with this story. So much wrong with this story. Unbelievable.
14-year-old and 16-year-old already with a fairly well-established criminal history by the sounds of it.
Yep.
And then how much money do you think a 7-year-old girl keeps in the float on a lemonade stand?
$5.25, maybe.
Probably about that.
Yep.
And then, like, just
unreal. Happy ending to the story, though. Very happy ending.
I didn't hear the ending.
Yeah, GoFundMe page was raised. I retweeted the GoFundMe page. Man,
Yeah.
I think that GoFundMe page raised at least $3,500. And just yesterday, and is she from Saskatoon or Regina?
Yeah.
I can't remember. She's from your neck of the woods, and she
Yeah.
threw the opening pitch at one of the local AAA games. And instead of using a baseball, she used a lemon.
Lemon?
Yeah. Good for her. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that story. Good for her.
Oh, that is great.
Good for her.
That is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh,
Oh.
no idea what that might be.
That is a typo.
Oh, I was going to say, because the full sum.
You gotta read it exactly how it is, because I made fun of Zane one time, and now we're obligated for the rest of our lives to read the typos exactly how they are. Jesus.
The full of some people. I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
no
it's
idea.
supposed to be the gull of some people, as in like the gall of some people.
Oh, you know what? That's just use the same excuse that Randy Boissonneau's partner used in the House of Commons the other day. It
was autocorrect.
It autocorrected 8
autocorrected
times.
Randy.
Autocorrected 8 times. Yeah. Sorry. Because in the case of Randy, I'm like, what was it autocorrecting to? So in yours, I'm like, how did goal get autocorrected to full? Well, Randy would make
the F and the G are right next to each other. But no, I'm not Randy Bissonneau's business partner. I don't look like a Ken doll somebody dropped in bleach. New Jersey man.
I want to make sure you don't have black.
Nothing fancy. Right? Nothing fancy there. This one though. New Jersey man arrested after ripping seagull's head off when it tried to swipe fries from his daughter.
Oh, that's savage. Wow.
Yeah. So Frank Ziegler, 29 of Cape May, was at the Surfside Pier and Maury's Piers and beachfront water parks on the Wildwood Boardwalk on July 6th when a mooching seagull tried to make off with the fries. In a fit of rage, Ziegler attacked the unfortunate bird and ripped its head off its body.
Ouch.
He then asked the boardwalk workers for a trash bag so he could dispose of the gull's remains, which he still clutched in his hands. The cops showed up, and Ziegler quickly got irate and uncooperative with officers on an unrelated investigation. Authorities arrested him and charged him with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest.
Ouch. Ouch.
And
what's
also third degree
what's
animal
the moral
cruelty.
of the story? Yeah, what's the moral of the story there? I don't even want to. Yeah.
I just okay. These shithawks.
Yep.
Who cares? There's about 1 billion of them. Also, he was charged with third degree animal cruelty. I would say if he wrung that thing's neck, it's a fairly well established, like that's what you do when you wound a bird and you're hunting it, is you go up and you wring its neck. And if you do it too much, you'll decapitate it. It's the fastest, easiest, simplest, most humane way to kill something. I would say it's even faster than trying to slit its neck.
Yep.
Something like that. And so this is a whole bunch of silly people doing dumb things. I completely support the idea of somebody decapitating a seagull that's stealing their fucking French fries, especially their daughter's French fries.
Yeah, shithawk. Didn't there used to be a cool video of a baseball player who right mid, like just throwing that fastball towards the pitcher, and then just at the wrong timing, the darn seagull flew in front.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Shoot, Randy Johnson, I want to say. Yeah.
I got a story that's similar to the seagull story. I'll tell it real quick. I was sitting around a campfire on a farm with an old guy. I won't give his name, but an old rancher, and a cat walked by and took a piss on the edge of the chair that Lyle was sitting in. Lyle grabbed the cat, grabbed his pocket knife, and cut off his balls and sent it on his merry way. He grew up on a farm, man. I mean, like that poor tomcat, just like, or a kitten, like, you know, licked his wounds and lived. But
fair enough. Well, I mean, you fuck around, you find out, and that's what happened with this seagull.
Oh, they put shit on you, Bubbles. Shit on me? Who? Shit hogs. Big, dirty shit hogs.
Oh, yeah. Vacation number 9 or 10
says Randy Johnson. So I guess
yeah.
Trudeau vacation of the week. So Trudeau is on vacation again in an undisclosed location in BC.
He definitely goes on a vacation a month. I mean, it's definitely his vacation of the month. Does he go on a vacation? Actually, I can't. Before we get into the story, Trudeau, if you want to stay on vacation until November 2025, please do so. Like, most Canadians will be happy to pay for it. Just don't come back.
It sucks that we pay him so much.
Yeah,
and it's this double-edged sword. Because on the one hand, listen, asshole, we're paying you. Show up for work. On the other hand, the less he shows up, the less the
better we
up.
are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, that's basically what's going on right now, is that he is on yet another goddamned vacation. And his cabin, his vacation cabin that we spent, what was it, $11 million to build? I don't know if he's ever set foot in there. It's interesting that, one of the issues with the Liberals is that they're completely out of touch with the plight of regular Canadians. And you would think that would be the logical thing, is they would say, look, Trudeau, you look like an elitist prick. The next time you go on vacation, go to the cabin that we spent $11 million on. Okay. That's already a sunk cost, and just go there and we'll send you some groceries and some booze or whatever.
Yeah. The cabin is no Camp David like the Americans provide to their president, but that's the compromise. We know that as the prime minister, you have a shit job, and we provide you. But I thought you're going to go elsewhere. I mean, there's lots to go on this vacation thing, right? There
was the interview with Kean Bexty. There was a bunch of people saying respect his privacy, and I don't really have any interest in carrying water for that argument. I feel like my privacy hasn't really been respected very much over the last few years by these people, and one good turn deserves another.
Yeah, they're definitely not respecting your rights. So let's not give him any more publicity. But definitely, we're genuinely upset though. I mean, when a tragedy like Jasper happens, you could pause your surfing for a few minutes and come say a few words, but he hasn't said anything. So anyways, Hey, one last thought on this. Besides the cottage, his cottage is cheap. Did you see what we just bought a high-rise condo for not even for the ambassador to the US, like some guy in New York, some ex-TV guy that we sent to New York as some sort of ambassador goodwill guy. We just bought him a $9 million apartment in New York. The Liberals love spending money, man. Love your money.
I hadn't heard that.
Bring that one up next week. You bet.
Yeah, Chris or Franco, if you're listening, if you haven't heard about that yet, I'm sure you're going to want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Trump fallout. So this is it. The now former U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. She was made to testify. It was an absolute disaster. And she, to her credit, although, I mean, if she didn't, she would have been, I'm sure, fired the next day. But she did resign afterwards, even though she said she wasn't going to resign. But she sat in front of a parliamentary committee, and they absolutely eviscerated her. And then she actually had the good graces to resign afterwards.
Yeah.
Could you imagine something like that in Canada?
Oh, I can't think of the last person in Canada to step down in a role like that. Like we've never.
Bill Morneau,
the Governor General.
Gerald
Actually, when I
Butts.
think the Governor General stepped down, but not because she was eviscerated. Yeah, the Governor General did. Interesting. The line of questioning was by nonpartisan, and even AOC. We all know AOC. I don't even know her full name, but
so
she
Alexandra Ocasio or Cortez. She's a senator, I think now. But she even got in some good salient questions. Well, I mean, I think she was kind of stretching things a little bit. She said that the AR-15 has an effective max range of 400 to 600 yards, which there's probably some people in the world that could do that. I would kind of have my doubts. But she said, why did you have a perfect sniper's position well within the effective range of the rifle of a common rifle like the AR-15, completely uncharted?
And she had no answer. And so, yeah, that's wonder who replaces her. I mean, and forget it. Like the whole thing, the whole Trump thing was such a fiasco. But I love some of the comedy that came out of it. I mean,
the memes were great.
The memes of the girls, like the DEI girls, with ponytails and everything.
And then also,
I think.
Yep. Go ahead.
No, the other one that I found funny, but not funny, like the guys walking around, like at the convention, everybody with the
ear bandages
on their ears.
Yeah. I saw Ryan Long and his buddy did that for a podcast, and I thought, oh, why didn't I think of that? Like I saw that last Friday right after the show, and I'm like, oh, why couldn't I think of that? Why?
Halloween is just before the election, right? Just before the American election.
Yeah,
man, we're gonna have some great Halloween costumes this year. Great Halloween costumes. Looking forward to it.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have couples where the guy goes as Donald Trump, and then the girl goes as the Secret Service woman hiding behind him.
Or actually, you don't need if you really lack imagination and you want a good costume, just get one of the Team Canada Olympic uniforms. It's a great costume. Looks like a fucking tampon covered in blood. I'm surprised you didn't have that story on here this week, because that came out this week.
Well, I mean, I saw it and I was like, I don't know, it's gross, but I don't really know about fashion. I didn't even think about the tampon angle. I just saw the video or the outfits, and I was like, I don't know. There's something about it was a really poorly written article, which doesn't, I mean, that's pretty standard for Canada, but I read the whole article and I wasn't quite sure what the heck was going on. I think Canada just got their women's soccer team kicked out of the Olympics for drone spying on
I didn't hear that.
Argentina or something like that. But I feel like I probably have a lot of details wrong, even within that statement, because I read the article and I was like, did AI throw up on my fucking monitor?
Right.
I read it and I was like, I have no idea what I just read here. So I couldn't even talk about it on the show other than just to mention it in passing, I guess. Personal finances.
I'm broke.
Exactly. Like, well, that's because you ain't got no job, Marty.
Yeah.
Retirement. 2/3 of Canadians desperately need interest rates to go down.
They got
Nearly
their
half
wish.
of Albertans $200 or less away from insolvency. It's
That
pretty gross out there right now for a lot of people.
Yeah, I
And
mean
Alberta,
that statement means that, you know, if somebody got hit by you know, the fridge kicks the bucket, or you get a bad flat on the highway and it's not easily repairable, most people would be in trouble if they had to buy a new $250 tire for the car.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're looking at right now. And in a completely unrelated note, here is a chart with the top central cities by population growth, US and Canada. You've got a couple near the bottom in Texas. Top one is Toronto, Ontario, went up by 125,000 people last year. Number 2 is Calgary, Alberta, which went up by 86 and change. And number 4 is Edmonton with 55 and change. Interesting thing about Calgary and Toronto is that Calgary has probably a little less than half the population of Toronto. So for
as
them
a
to be neck and
percentage,
neck,
that's a big,
as a
yeah.
percentage, they're far and away
Yeah.
growing much, much faster. Right. And
Yeah,
then,
and these are the things
yep.
that, like, you know, when we were talking earlier about GDP, like I said, GDP Canadians are seeing beyond the Liberals. When the Liberals this week kept saying, "Oh, we dropped interest rate because the economy is doing better." No, actually, you dropped interest rate because the economy is still in a tank, and Canadians can see that. They don't care.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you tell a Canadian. Hey, our GDP is great, and the Canadian goes, "Yeah, I just spent $300 on a basket of groceries, and I got nothing to show for it." So the average Canadian life on the street is different than what the Liberals are telling us it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
one of the big pitfalls they have is that because they're so disconnected from reality, I feel like they have trouble speaking accurately to things like inflation, or at least accurately and in a relatable way.
Yeah.
Because they just say, "Oh, well, I mean, I have people to buy my bananas for me." Right? What are you guys talking about? What's going on? He hasn't been complaining about the price of groceries. Why are you?
Well, it's like when Chrystia Freeland gets dropped off by her chauffeur one block away from Parliament, gets out, and somebody hands her a bicycle, and then she pedals the next 100 yards to Parliament, says, "Ooh, I'm one of you. I get to pedal like everybody else." It's like, no, honey, I don't even pedal these days. I'm taking the shitty train with all the druggies, and I'm trying to not get anybody to puke on me. So no, you want reality, honey? Chrystia Freeland, come ride the train in Calgary with me for a couple of days. We'll have fun.
Yes, absolutely. One final note, foreign student permits are already outpacing 2023's record numbers. This is despite the Liberal minister saying that he was going to crack down on that. Other interesting thing within that is that the byline, Brian Passafume, friend of the show, was on maybe about 6 weeks ago while he was he had some medical leave or something like that. And so he was just kind of recuperating, but came on the show anyway. And if that's his byline, it means he's back at it. So good to have you back, Brian.
Yep, absolutely.
BC is methed up.
That's a good headline. That's accurate.
And then actually, yeah. So this is exactly what we're sorry.
Yeah.
I pulled an audible before and then I forgot about it. But we essentially covered everything already on here. So thanks a lot, Twos, for wasting 30 seconds.
Man.
Get Swifty. So not only is Toronto temporarily spending tens of thousands of dollars to temporarily rename streets in honor of Taylor Swift, because it's not like they have a giant flood to recover from, but also Taylor Swift voted 8th best guitarist of the last 2 decades. I just saw this, and technically this should have been on a couple weeks ago. But Taylor Swift, who, like, I went with the kids to go see that Eras tour in the movie theaters, and I sat for 4 fucking hours of Taylor Swift where she played guitar for about 20 minutes. And yeah, she seemed fairly competent, but I don't even think she did so much as a bar chord, let alone a solo. It was literally just cowboy chords.
Well,
So,
the key there is last 2 decades, I guess. The bar is pretty low in the last 2 decades. I mean, this is not Prince. This is not Eddie Van Halen. This is not Roger Waters, or like some of the great guitarists of this is not Led Zeppelin. God, this is the last 20 years. That's the list right there.
At the same time, though, side note, T-Short says the Mashup North logo is great.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're gonna have a link, by the way. You can get that on a T-shirt now, Sean. I didn't even realize he was gonna do it for the guest spots, but I was bugging him about the merch stuff, saying that when he gets back, we got to get moving ahead with finally getting the damn T-shirts already. And he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And so yeah. Anyway, we have merch available. Link in the description. But this is the top 20. You've got John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I could absolutely agree with him being up there. Alex Turner from the Arctic Monkeys. I've been listening to the Arctic Monkeys for a long time, but I've never seen them solo, or like I've never seen them in concert. I wouldn't have thought to put him up there. John Mayer. I was really surprised. I've got this buddy who went and saw him in concert, and actually one of my guitars I bought from him. So he knows a thing or two about guitars. And he said that John Mayer absolutely slayed. Like he could just rail on that thing. It was incredible.
I'm having a hard time reading the list. Is Dave Matthews on there? I'm thinking of guys of the last 20 years. I like Dave Matthews. Interesting
because Dave Matthews, like you listen to it and it doesn't sound super complicated. You ever watch him play in a music video and you're like, how in the hell does he even do this? And if you look up the tablature for anything, like even so much to say, like, oh yeah, I'd like to learn that. And you look at it and you're like, I would need 50 years to learn that. So yeah, John Mayer, Sam Fender, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead.
Yep.
Oh, don't even get me started. Chris Shiflett from Foo Fighters, Ed O'Brien from Radiohead. Tom York is incredibly overrated, people. You need to understand that. And I get the fact that this is British, so that's probably why the Arctic Monkeys were up there. But guys, Radiohead fucking sucks. And then underneath that, Taylor Swift, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182, and Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro. I don't even know who that is. I did like the fact that Keith Urban and Brad Paisley were both on there because I have been saying forever that they are some of the best guitarists in the world. And whenever you talk to somebody who doesn't listen to country music, they kind of look at you like, what?
Yeah.
But they are immensely talented.
I love country music.
But Taylor Swift has no place on that list.
And she's not pretty either. God, she gives me the willy jeebies when I see her on stage. I
actually saw her. She opened for Dirks and Brad Paisley once, like, I don't know, about 15 years ago. She was the opening act. And I saw her and I don't know, I'd heard maybe like 2 of her songs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that was okay, whatever, sure. Didn't think too much of it. I don't know. She played more guitar in that one small opening set than she did in her entire 4-hour concert.
Shania Twain is still a hot lady.
Oh yes. And then Twisters. So speaking of Shania Twain, because she was prominent in the original Twister soundtrack, the sequel came out. I went and saw it. We could do a quick impromptu movie review.
Sure.
Okay, I'm glad you asked. It was fun. It was interesting, but it was really frustrating at a couple points. Like there's this one scene where a whole bunch of people die because they're trying to get up into an overpass. And so they go right to the bottom of the overpass and then go to scale up to 45 rather than just walking along the gentle slope that takes them right there. And then like the bad guy needs these guys who get weather data from tornadoes to help him go around lowballing people whose homes are wrecked with no insurance to get the land. And you're like, how does knowing how a tornado works or whatever else affect whether or not you're able to do this? Because you're not going to them before the place gets torn up. You're not going to them before they've got nothing left. You're going to them after they've got nothing left. And so you've got this whole subplot about this evil guy, and it doesn't make a lick of sense.
Yeah. And go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I can suspend disbelief if you want to get weird about physics or, say, oh, something's a little bit like this or whatever else. I can let you be a little bit imaginative. But when you've got motives, you've got motives that just don't make a lick of sense. That's what
I can suspend disbelief or science when I'm watching Lord of the Rings and things like that, but I can't, or Star Wars, but I can't do it when I'm watching Armageddon or Twister if they get it wrong. But
you didn't like how Armageddon, all those joints came out of the hole without even being threaded together?
Actually, in hindsight, they might have been onto something. There might be hydrocarbon. We know there are hydrocarbons in the universe elsewhere than on Earth. So they got a few things wrong. But does Twister pay tribute? I mean, if you think about the old Twister, like Bill Paxton's left us.
So Bill Paxton was in it, believe it or not.
And Seymour?
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Was he in there, or Because I'm thinking about
neither of those guys were in the sequel. Spoiler alert. It had a little nod at the start, and then it recreated a couple shots in good ways, but it wasn't trying to ride on its coattails, and it wasn't preachy about climate change, which really surprised me, and that was really good. But then on the other hand, he brings in this chick because she's an expert in like having a mindset for understanding tornadoes, and then, so he brings her like all the way across the country to help them get right next to the tornadoes. And then his second in command's like, oh, he's listening to her again. You're like, motherfucker, he just flew her across the country for this exact thing that he's getting her to do. And you're surprised and mad at him because that's what they're doing. How does that track? How does that make any sense?
I know how tornadoes think.
Anyway, that's that, but it is fun and interesting. And next week, we're going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. So, Sean, go watch it because we're going to talk about it next week. Right. Phoenix Burns. This is fun. The Phoenix pay system, which has been dealing with, like, this predates Trudeau.
Oh, that Phoenix. Yeah.
Cost of Phoenix pay system fiasco is now up to $3.7 billion, the highest figure disclosed to date, according to a PSPC, which is Public Services and Procurement memo. This is their pay system. This is what they use to give everybody who works for the government money. And I understand that there's a lot of fucking people in that system, but how fucking hard can it be? Like, even when it hit, say, $100 million, you'd be like, look, we're going to rebuild this from scratch, and it's going to cost us another $3 million. Because I am sure that you or I, or you and I, could build something like this from scratch in Microsoft Excel.
You could do it in Microsoft Excel, or you could buy something off the shelf like QuickBook or something like that. And you go to the guys of QuickBook and you say, I need a steroid version of QuickBook. They'll give you one.
We want to cut down on our costs. So for $1 billion, which is a quarter of what we've spent here, for $1 billion, we need a lifetime subscription to a good an amped up version of QuickBooks. They would absolutely give you that solution immediately.
Totally. And the public sector is huge, right? Sure, it's ginormous. There's 320,000 civil servants working for the government, the federal government. That's sweet nothing compared to
that's like what they've hired. That's not how many there are. That's like how many they've hired in the last few years.
Whatever, just go and don't reinvent the wheel. Go to McDonald's and say, well, you guys have 1.6 million employees. How do you pay your employees? Or go to IBM or go to freaking anybody. Like, this is not this
Walmart's the biggest employer in the United States. Go ask them.
Ask them.
You don't even need to do consultations on it. You just call up somebody, be like, hi, I'm from the government. You want to meet for a cup of coffee? And they're going to be like, oh, fuck, here we go.
And while you're visiting Walmart, ask them how they manage the money. Also ask them how they manage to make a profit on everything. Also ask them how, fuck, man, the federal government could learn a lot of lessons from Walmart. Actually,
they could learn a lot of lessons from pretty much any company.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of and we spoke about McDonald's. I used to hire kids from McDonald's all the time. Like some companies are great at training people. You know, like if I saw a kid's resume who had graduated school, but somehow or other told me, yeah, I kept working at McDonald's through school and I made it to a line manager at McDonald's. I'm like, welcome aboard, kid. Welcome aboard. Because those companies train, man. They train.
Yep.
They train
If you've
well.
got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yeah, dude, I helped the kid write his resume. This kid worked at the Amazon distribution center down the road here at Balzac, and he didn't even want to highlight that too much on his resume. He was embarrassed about working at Amazon. And I'm like, dude, how long you been at Amazon? He's like, whatever, a year and a half. I'm like, you survived a year and a half at Amazon in like the most brutal, efficient environment? I was like, yeah, I love it. I'm like, dude, man, like you're like. Let's pull out these qualities, right? Like
absolutely.
You're
obviously a high performer.
You're efficient.
You're
productive. Yeah.
You are good at thinking your way through things.
You understand the value of a dollar. You understand markets. You understand the importance of doing a job quickly and properly. Dude, let's put this on your resume. If I can't get you a job, you're done. Yeah. So cool.
All right. Smith irritates twos of the week.
Oh,
this woman, let me tell you. Alberta Premier defends ministers accepting Oilers playoff tickets from parole importer. That's that Turkish
Tylenol guy. Yeah.
That they brought in. And I mean, the sun's coming out firing. You can always tell how newspapers feel about the person, because they'll either have a picture of them happy or angry or whatever else. And she does not look her best in this photo. So Danielle Smith got VIP box tickets in Vancouver with some other group. And then she also got VIP tickets to, this is for the Oilers playoff run, or sorry, maybe it was Vancouver. I can't remember. Sorry. And then
it was Vancouver. This was a Vancouver one. Yeah, Vancouver.
Yeah, and then during the Stanley Cup Finals, she got VIP box tickets in Edmonton from the Turkish Tylenol people. And she said, as I understand it, all the rules have been followed. I have an exception. I have an expectation that every elected person is going to be able to do their disclosures appropriately. And then it talks about what exact rules it were that were being followed. Because longtime fans of the show will remember when she changed the rules because it inhibited her ability to get free hockey tickets. 3 days ahead of last Christmas, which is always when they do their most dastardly stuff, the government raised the limits on gifts that could be received by ministries via an order in council. Isn't it funny how those orders in council always seem to kick us in the ass? MLAs could previously
my advice to her is,
yep.
No, go ahead. Finish the story, and then we'll talk about
MLAs
it.
could previously accept non-monetary gifts valued at $200, while tickets to events were capped at $400. Under new regulation, both are limited to $500, but could go above $1,000 if reported to the ethics commissioner. So if you just send them an email ahead of time that says, I'm going to go to the fucking hockey game, deal with it, technically that's their required disclosure, and they're good to go after that. And so that's what she did. And so she changed the rules so that she would be allowed to do this. And then her response is that she's following the rules. And now I'm stuck agreeing with Naheed Nenshi for the first fucking time in my life in that this is bullshit.
Yep.
And
it's bullshit.
If she wants to be a relatable person, if she wants to, come up, people in Alberta value authenticity, right? This, fair enough. You want to go to the hockey game. You want to be seen representing your province.
Go.
All right. Yeah. If you actually really wanted to represent the people of your province, you'd be wearing a jersey. You'd have your face painted, maybe a couple pom-poms or a sign that you'd be waving from the stands, drinking a beer.
No, if she was
fun.
Yeah, if she was going to the game every week because she loves hockey and we were paying for it, I'd be like, no, you can you're paid, not that well actually, but you put it on your own dime. But for playoffs and stuff like that. You go to the hockey game and sit down with the premier from the other side, or with the governor of Texas or Florida, whatever. It's all legit, man. We wouldn't give a shit as a Canadian or as an Albertan taxpayer. If you said, you took one flight to Florida during playoffs, I wouldn't care. Wouldn't care. As soon as you start doing this kind of bullshit, like the appearance of conflict is conflict. That's it. I mean, I worked in private sector my whole life, and we were trained on this over and over and over. The simple appearance of conflict is conflict enough. It's bad. So don't do that. I agree. It's and especially in Alberta, man. Come on, Danielle, please. Like we basically fired the previous government because they stood on the what do they call it? Not the Crystal Palace,
the Sky Palace.
The Sky Palace, a set of rules for D, but not for us, drinking freaking. It wasn't the scotch that bothered me when Kenny was sitting on the Sky Palace.
It was we're going to do it while you sit at home.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't give a shit if you're drinking scotch, buddy, even if it's on my dime. I really don't care.
Yeah, and it wasn't even good scotch. That was probably the one thing that bugged me about it. Actually, I think it was Irish whiskey, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So no, that was a bad move, Danielle. Fix that. Yeah.
Do better. EVs getting dropped.
Oh yeah.
So
Gilbo's rolling on this one. He's been quiet on this one.
Yeah, funny that. Isn't it interesting how he always likes to jump? He kind of jumps the gun and then looks silly in retrospect.
Yeah.
So what happened is that Ford recently announced that they're moving away from manufacturing EVs in Ontario and going towards F-250s. So they're backing off the EVs and they're going to go full bull on F-250s and
not just
they're
any. I mean, that's super
not
hilarious.
Just light duty truck, but F-250s, right?
Yeah.
And so they're spending $2 billion to convert the plant to set it up for specifically F-250s. So it's not like they're moving away from EVs and making scooters or little coupes and hatchbacks or things like that.
Yeah, that's the best part. I mean, imagine the negotiations at first. Like Ford says, we want to build F-150s, and Gilbo's like, can you build small EV cars? And then Ford goes, we'll compromise. We'll do F-150 electrics. Gilbo, okay, here's a couple $1 billion. Mm-hmm. Ford comes back, it's like, we changed our mind. We're going to full-size 1-ton diesels. Okay.
Well, that's exactly what happened here, is that they got $600 million from the government of Ontario and $600 million from the federal government to build EVs. And so they said, oh, thank you for the money. Thank you very much. But we're going to build big ass fucking trucks. And while I can appreciate that sentiment, where's the fucking money, Lebowski?
Yeah, you don't get it back. That rug really brings the room together. Actually, I know we're moving on, but the one part the one part I like about that story is, I've said this many times, like you got people that are ideological, and when ideology finally meets practicality usually wins. So the government of Canada can say whatever the hell they want when it comes to electric vehicles. The proof is in the pudding, and people want trucks, big trucks with diesels, with power,
Yeah.
So fight me.
Well, I mean, you could definitely outrace them. So
in a diesel or in an EV, EVs are fast, man. Yeah, some of those EVs are fast.
Okay, but you want to go on a long trip? Like,
Oh,
absolutely. Like the torque is unmatched. When you hear about like Teslas in plaid mode or whatever else like that, they seem ridiculous. But you want to drive 1,000 clicks?
You're
gonna get there. You're gonna get there a lot faster when you don't have to fuel up for 2 hours so the batteries can charge.
I made a trip from here to Prince Rupert, which was like, I don't know, 1,400 kilometers, and we made it on and back. We made it on 3 tanks of gas pulling a boat, 3 tanks of diesel pulling a boat. Those new diesels, man. This was a Ford. I don't know what's in the Fords now. A 6.8. That thing is efficient and hauls. Whoa! Like even I was driving it once in a while, and you're pulling like, I don't know, a 20,000-pound boat behind you, and you're still looking down at the speedo going, holy shit, I'm doing 130 in the mountains, got to slow down. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, technology's come so far. Like, even you think about like the mileage you used to get 20 years ago, and then your parents complaining about the mileage they got 20 years before that. I
Yeah.
remember we had this old Ford truck that you could almost watch the fuel gauge drop. So yeah, and we were hauling a boat to the lake one time, and my dad and one of his buddies and me, and yeah, it was like basically we had to stop like every 50 kilometers for gas. All right, so the media is not your friend, but community knows it is
What?
actually. So this is awesome. This is we got a few things here. Some of them to do with other things we've been talking about along the way. So Axios News. The Trump campaign and Republicans have tagged Harris repeatedly with the border czar title, which she never actually had. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. On April 14th, 2021, Axios' Shauna Chen confirmed Kamala Harris had been appointed Biden's border czar, writing, Harris, appointed by Biden as border czar, said she would be looking at the root causes that drive migration. So not only were they able to find a source that refuted this thing, it was literally fucking them.
Yeah.
This happens all the time. Here's another one. CBS News. Trump falsely accuses Harris of donating to Minnesota Freedom Fund, bailing out dangerous criminals. She literally did this during the BLM. These were the people who got arrested during the BLM riots. Okay. Readers added context. This accusation is not false. Kamala Harris has promoted MFF, Minnesota Freedom Fund, in the past, and her ex-post supporting it is still active for now. And then it shows her literally tweeting this stuff. This just goes on, and I like this one.
Strictly.
This is Polyev, who, in all fairness, the Canadian media has had a really easy time lately with politicians, I'd say over the past decade, because they throw softballs to the Liberals, and the Conservatives back off because they're scared of being called racist all the time. And that's basically the last 10 years in media interviews in Canada. And now you've got somebody who actually questions things, and they're not good enough to deal with it. So here is Monsieur Polyev.
One option here in your mind.
Are you talking, sorry, on what subject? Are we talking now drugs or crime?
I'm talking safe supplies.
Well, again, you know, how can you possibly report on the story when you're already using government propaganda? It's not safe. Yes, that's the problem. You're using the term they're using.
So it goes on like this for a little while, but
that was a good interview, actually, because the guy backpedaled. He says, okay, not safe. What did he say? Supervised. And then Pierre called him out on that. And yeah.
I mean, it's not quite as beautiful visually as the apple eating moment, but I like the fact that there's somebody who's actually pushing back on these BS conversations.
Yeah.
All right, here you go. Metro UK. And they actually, if you go to this link, they updated the headline because I think they got quite a lot of flack over it. But here's what it was. So their tweet's still up with the original headline. Army's newest laser that can fire at the speed of light.
No.
How fast are the lasers you were expecting exactly?
What does laser stand for? Light amplification.
I can't remember. I know it's light amplification, and I know that it is an acronym.
Yeah,
but I can't remember what it is. But yeah, that's the whole point. It's the light part of it that's important. Now this was Polling Canada posted this. This is how trustworthy do you find the news reported by the following media organization? And this was based off 3,500 respondents from Polera. And I think it was an online poll. But here you go. The most trusted two are the Weather Network and the CBC, followed by CTV and Global.
God.
The last ones, Fox News, Rebel Media, the Beaverton, Western Standard, the Sun newspapers.
So the poll is biased, obviously. I mean,
The poll is
people
extremely biased when
Yeah,
you look at that, but also the poll asked how much you trust the reporting of the Beaverton,
yeah.
which is basically it's like the Onion kind of thing. For those of you who don't know, it's political satire, but you probably just don't hear about it because it's not really that funny anymore.
It's actually cute that they try to make it. They when I first looked at that poll, you got me at first because I went, oh, Weather Network, okay, jives. I would trust a Weather Network, and then you start going down, and then afterwards you go, oh, okay, I see a pattern here. So they put a legitimate one at the top, and then everything underneath is all bullshit, because I am starting to trust the weather. Trust is a relative term. The only thing I trust a Weather Network for is
The forecast?
their forecast, right?
Yeah.
And then even well, I digress. But yeah.
Okay, but yeah, this I mean, I would say that this is just a wildly slanted, very localized poll, and there's no context in it. It didn't say it was based off all Canada or just Ontario. This is probably something you'd see in Prince Edward Island or Nova Scotia, I'm guessing. But just the fact that they didn't even know enough to take the Beaverton out of it is insane. And here's one you might like. You probably recognize this lady. Hey, Marty.
I don't.
Oh,
Or is that Paulisa Souvien or whatever?
yeah,
Or
that is.
Yeah. That's Paulie.
So,
well, that's not her name, but that's her group.
Yes. Yeah. And so, for those of you who don't know, this woman, she was one of the survivors of the École Polytechnique shooting in the late 80s, in 89, I think, if I remember correctly. And so she has since become an absolute deranged lunatic, but she gets the street cred of having survived a shooting, kind of Canada's David Hogg. Like if you got David Hogg from wish.com. And so anyway, this entire article doesn't even attempt to reach out to anybody on the other side of the argument, doesn't attempt to dissect any of the any of the positions stated in any of this entire thing. Yeah, okay, here, Provost, the survivor of the 1989 mass shooting at Montreal's École Polytechnique. Okay, so it talks about this open letter that this woman, who has been community noted into oblivion, by the way, who is just renowned on Twitter for getting fact checked when she posts absolute bullshit, is treated as a credible source in this entire thing. It demonized the Conservatives, which there's a lot to demonize about them. You don't need to just use hearsay and random unspoken things. You can actually be legit. Conservative MPs and some gun owners have vehemently opposed the Liberal efforts to ban certain firearms as an attack on law-abiding citizens, is what they said there, which it literally is.
It is.
And so anyway, this article, it's too bad. I was actually going to reach out to this guy and then I forgot. But I wanted to just be like, what was your approach to this? What were you trying to do with it? Are you considering updating this article with some facts or anything like that? I don't know. Maybe I should still reach out to him.
I'll tell you a couple of things about community notes. So not everybody can issue community notes. I can. So I'm a big account and I'm verified, and now I'm allowed to produce community notes. And even if you're a big account and verified, you have to put in community notes, and then they have to be rated by others. So I have a scoreboard, and I can go see, did I say a community note was real and it turned out to be real? Yes, then you're positive. If I said it's false, but it turned out to be real, then I get a tick against me. So I'm considered a reliable
source. Yeah,
a trusted
reliable
source.
I would say. Yeah.
But what's hilarious is I get attacked, and my tweets get community noted all the time. You don't see the community notes until they
they get proposed. So there will be if you're part of that group, which I am too, because I'm super fancy as well, Marty.
Okay, cool.
You get to see the proposed community notes underneath. And then if there's been enough interaction to where the algorithm clicks over from proposed to important enough to be shown to everybody. It doesn't show proposed community notes to everyone. It's once they're reasonably sure that it's come to a correct conclusion. That's when the community note shows
up. So
I
I get swarmed by weird community notes, and then you can see who's proposing the community note. If you click on it, you see their name. It's a fictitious name.
And it doesn't have anything to do with their Twitter handle.
No, and it's always the same guys. I think Stephen Gilbo's hitting me with community notes all the time. But hey, hi Stephen.
Steven, you suck if you're watching this.
Yeah, you do. You really
But
do.
yeah, that's it. And now we've got happy news. Oh, where to even start with this, Marty? All right. So this is Mark Johnston. I've worked for the Riders since 2019, and this was the year, and that was the year we got this Gatling gun. Ever since then, I've wanted to shoot it at a game. I get that opportunity this Friday. I'm pumped. Go Riders. Look at this is their t-shirt cannon at Mosaic
Jeez.
Stadium.
I want one. Yeah, yeah.
Could you imagine? Like, I looked into getting a t-shirt cannon myself because I thought it's the kind of thing I should have, right? They're stinking expensive. And that was just a single shot. It was basically just a muzzle loader. It was like a t-shirt cannon muzzle. Well, yeah, I mean, you could just, some PVC and a little bit of yeah.
No, we're gonna Mythbusters the shit out of this thing. We're gonna get pipe from your yard, and we're getting compressed air. We're gonna make a cannon. Yeah. But this thing's cool.
You could basically build a potato gun that would do the same thing, right? I think it would be a little bit hard to have it fly gently rather than But anyway, so this is the Riders t-shirt cannon, and then here
hit that
button. Look at that.
Wow.
It's sort of the dreams really.
But I didn't see it shooting anything. You don't. I guess it's shooting so fast you don't really see it, right?
You can see the little flares, and then also if you're watching it cycle every time.
There you go.
Every time it moves over, you'll know that it's because it just automatically fires when the cylinder lines up with the barrel, right?
And then actually, if you were gonna get really creative, that smoke could be like vape, and it could be like infused with pot, and then get everybody in the crowd like just cheerful.
I mean, yeah, you could do something like that. I'm guessing it's compressed.
That'd be abuse. We're not gonna go down.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, that's the kind of thing you'd expect at a Bombers game. Although technically this was a Bombers game, and they beat the Bombers. Although they did lose to the fucking Alouettes last night. But whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah. It was a big defeat.
Yes. So here's other happy news. So this is Billy Mays III. I just got to Pittsburgh, and someone left OxyClean at my dad's grave. So here's Billy Mays, beloved husband, father, and son, pitchman. He's the but wait, there's more guy. And somebody had just left a bottle of OxyClean on his grave.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty good. And bonus community notes. I get home late the other night, and there's a siren flashing through one of the windows. Mrs. Twos looks outside. There's a fire truck parked next door, but not just any fire truck, antique. So, yeah, it was the second longest serving truck in Nanaimo.
Okay.
And then it ended up getting donated to the Calgary Fire Department Museum. They kept it for a while, didn't have room for it, didn't have money to do anything with it, gave it to some farmer gave it to some other guy who's buddies with my neighbor, and now they're fixing it up in the driveway. And that thing is going to be fucking beautiful when it's done.
That's going to be awesome in parades and things like that. That's going to be awesome.
Like, and just, it's been stored indoors between so it was stored indoors for the museum, and it was stored indoors on the farm. And so it's still in pretty good condition. It kicks over. I lent them a little bit of gas, and what
did it look like as a truck? Is it just sort of a water truck, or with a couple of wooden ladders on the side? Generally speaking, what kind of truck?
It's a little bit newer than that. It's oh shoot, I don't think I have any good pictures of it. Maybe I could follow up with that later. But it looks basically like I don't know. It kind of looks. It's that kind of Ford heavy duty truck style that almost looks like an old International.
Yep.
That's kind of what it looks like a little bit. And then it's just a fire truck on the back. It doesn't have a lifting. It's got this thing that you push up you can pop it down to take the ladders off more easily, but there's no man lift or anything like that.
Probably got some gorgeous old wooden ladders on there and stuff like that.
Nope. It's got aluminum ladders.
Oh, aluminum. Yeah. You know the kind of trucks I love, and I don't think we even have any in Calgary. You know those ladder trucks you see in the US where the rear is steered differently from the front, and then they go down the road full speed, and the guy is like on the back of the truck. Check those out on YouTube someday. Like ladder trucks is. Really
I will.
cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
Calgary has had some cool service vehicles. The police helicopter that they retired in 2007 or 9. They bought that from the film studio that made a little flick called Speed. That
Ooh.
helicopter that blew up in the movie Speed,
Yeah.
it didn't actually blow up. That was just movie magic. It ended up getting bought by the city of Calgary, and that was their police chopper for like 15 years afterwards.
Yeah, in the future, it's all going to be drones. Hopefully, it's little
I mean,
drones.
why not, right?
Yeah, not the American style drones that spy at you from 50,000 feet and shoot missiles, but
that Barack Obama sends to your coffee shop.
yeah. Jeez.
So anyway, that was happy news. And then community notes in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, the weekend, August 16th, we've got the Sundry Rodeo coming up, or pardon me, the Sundry Music Festival. Julian Austin putting on the foil, a few other guests. I don't know. Anything interesting happening over in your neck of the woods coming up?
No. It's a boring summer.
Oh.
No, I got lots on the go, man. I'm always on the go right now. My big news is we're moving my daughter into her new condo tomorrow. So off
The
after
renos
this
went
show.
well?
Renos went fantastic. That's a topic in all of itself, not the renos, but buying real estate in Calgary. What an eye opener that was. But it's all happening. So now, as a good dad, I'm going to go rent a U-Haul this afternoon, and we'll move her in tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations. She's going to the UFC then, presumably.
No, she's done. So this is my oldest. She's done. So she's moving into a condo. She's established.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the biggest news in my life is I'm becoming an empty nester on September 1st. So my
Nice.
youngest
walk around naked day.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll shave on that day. See what happens. Maybe that'll.
Well, if you're walking around,
hey, baby.
if you're walking around naked, maybe hit all the sweet spots.
Hey, how do you know I'm not naked right now? I mean, that's the beauty of doing these Zoom calls, right?
That's fair. That's fair. I did.
Yeah.
There was one point it was like bloody hot here because I'm upstairs. I did one mashup in my boxers and a t-shirt, just for the listener at home. So all right. Well, yeah. I guess that's about it, Marty. Thanks a lot for coming on, man.
Awesome.
I
hope I did Sean
especially
proud. I hope I did. You did actually as the main host, or you guys
Co-host.
share.
It was
hosting.
co-host.
Yeah, co-host. Yeah. So, and we'll see Sean back here next week, I guess.
Yeah, and if not, it's fine. We'll get somebody else next week. We'll just
All
keep
right,
cycling
cheers.
through guests. All right, thanks,
Yeah.
Marty. Stick around
Cheers,
for
everyone.
a sec, though.
You bet.